someone close to you is lying right now. Whether it's a minor detail in a financial negotiation or a massive omission about where they were last night, deception is a daily reality. But when you suspect a lie, calling it out usually backfires. If you confront someone directly, they get defensive, dodge the topic, and if you happen to be wrong, you've permanently damaged the trust between you. Amateurs usually try to bridge this gap by scanning for nervous tics. They watch for a twitch or fidgeting and eyes darting to the left, relying on old pop culture myths to catch a liar. The problem with trying to read the body is that the physiological signs of natural anxiety, the exact kind a perfectly honest person feels when under pressure, look exactly the same as the symptoms of deception. Accusing someone based on a shaky voice often leads to disastrous false accusations. Interrogators at the FBI had to develop a different approach. They shifted their focus away from physical anxiety and toward a mental concept known as cognitive load. This matrix shows how the approach works. A truth teller is simply recalling a memory, which is easy. A liar has to invent a story in real time, remember what they've already said, and avoid contradicting themselves. That takes immense, exhausting mental energy. Identifying deception requires an active, structural process of strategic questioning designed to force a liar's brain to work so hard that their narrative eventually fractures under its own weight. This flowchart illustrates the mental architecture to set up that trap. Step 1. Establishing a baseline. Start with easy, harmless questions about the weather. While they talk, track their tone of voice, posture, and hand movements. This creates a mental photograph of the person's normal, relaxed behavior. Once you know what normal looks like, any sudden deviation, like an unusually high voice or rigid hands, becomes instantly obvious. Setting up a baseline takes patience and delays the actual confrontation. However, without it, you lose the context needed to tell if their eventual anxiety is a sign of guilt or just a reaction to the pressure of the moment. Once the baseline is set, you execute the first verbal trap. Most people ask broad questions that are incredibly easy to dodge, like, "How was your night?" Instead, use an open-ended question built on a negative assumption, such as, "What kept you out so late last night?" You aren't asking if they were out late, you are assuming they were. By removing the easy yes or no escape route, you force them to build a highly detailed lie on the spot, maximizing the effort their brain has to exert. This phrasing generates highly trackable details, but it demands extreme emotional control on your end. You have to maintain a casual, curious tone so they feel safe talking. If they feel attacked, they will shut down completely. By pairing a solid behavioral baseline with an assumption-based question, you force the subject to do the heavy lifting of story construction, handing you the exact data you need to test their honesty. Now that they're building a story, you can test its strength using the false detail test. This instantly separates a real memory from an invention. While they're talking, casually inject an incorrect fact into the conversation. For example, mention that a specific store they claim to visit on a Tuesday is actually closed that day. A truth teller is relying on actual events. They will confidently and immediately correct your false detail without missing a beat because they know exactly what happened. A liar, however, is making it up as they go. They will often agree with your false detail, terrified that pushing back might unravel their fragile story or make them look suspicious. This gives you a near-instant lie detection mechanism, but the trade-off is steep. It relies entirely on you possessing accurate, secret information about the event to safely run the bluff. Right after you drop that false detail, you enter a crucial 5-second window. This is the exact time frame you must carefully monitor their word choices before their brain has time to adjust and build defenses. During those 5 seconds, listen closely for vague, non-committal language. Phrases like "I think," words like "maybe," or even "probably" tend to surface right as they start describing the most crucial parts of their narrative. These vague words aren't accidental. They act as intentional escape routes, allowing a liar to avoid committing to a concrete fact so they can backtrack later if you challenge them. Ultimately, a liar's fear of contradicting themselves becomes their greatest weakness. It causes them to blindly accept false premises and hide behind evasive language. You can further expose a fabricated story by attacking its chronological structure. You do this by asking highly specific timeline questions. Ask what time they left and what time they arrived. If someone claims a drive took 30 minutes, but the route requires at least an hour, you found an inconsistency. Mathematical holes are the fastest way to expose a story made up on the fly. To push the pressure even further, you can escalate to the double trap. This involves interrupting the subject mid-narrative with a completely different question. This sudden interruption forces a massive spike in their cognitive load. The subject has to mentally rewind their entire narrative, reorganize their thoughts, and attempt to restart their fabricated story from a completely new track. A truth teller handles this easily, picking up the story exactly where they left off. A liar's story, on the other hand, fractures. When they restart, their new details usually contradict the statements they made just moments before. While this effectively shatters lies, it demands intense concentration. You must actively listen and maintain perfect memory retention to catch the newly created inconsistencies as they fall out. The truth effortlessly fits into the mathematical reality of time, whereas lies bud down completely under the weight of strict chronological scrutiny. This quadrant chart illustrates each technique's return on investment. Managers in the professional zone lean on high-effort timeline and double traps. In the relational zone, rely on baselines and false details. Low-effort tricks like looking for fidgets sit entirely in the unreliable zone. Regardless of the zone, you must look for clusters. A single vague word or momentary break in eye contact means absolutely nothing on its own. You should only take action when multiple verbal inconsistencies and physical shifts align simultaneously, deviating sharply from the baseline you established at the beginning of the conversation. Applying this framework means sacrificing the ease of a natural dialogue to adopt the calculated mental posture of an investigator. This provides a systematic way to verify information before you act on it. Deep down, your gut usually knows when something is off. By utilizing these cognitive traps, you secure hard evidence to confirm suspicions,